Hello folks, hope everything's going well for you, hope the start of your week is going well. I'm rushing through work and on my lunch break here we are, deciding to read some Hobby Nightmares to just, I don't know, not so much get it out the way, but use my time productively is what I'm trying to do. So, let's get into some Hobby Nightmares, shall we? If you like what I do, the subscribe button's down below. Please do subscribe if you're new around here and help me get towards that 15,000 subscriber target by the end of the year. We are 2 months away and we have 1,000 subscribers to get. If we can get 1,000 subscribers over the next 2 months, we've done it, and I'm going to be incredibly happy. Incredibly happy. It was a pie in the sky target at the start of the year. Now it's just within reach, which would be amazing if you can help us reach it if you're not already subscribed. If you are, then share the video around to people that might get a kick out of it. And thank you very much. If you want to support me further, head on over down to Patreon down below or become a member of the channel. Either of those two things do wonders to help me out. And also, if you're getting any models over the next few weeks, make sure you go down to Composite Games down below. Use the promo code Northern Exile to get yourself 5% off your order at checkout for anything that you need, from Warhammer to Age of Sigmar to Dungeons and Dragons to anything you want really. It's all down there for you. They are also doing their own prize draw that is throughout this month essentially. All the details are down below. Make sure you go and support them please, because if you do, you are in with a chance of winning £400 worth of free models and loads of other prizes that are down there on that screen. So head on down there. Any entrance that you do helps them grow their business, move locations, or even upgrade the location they're in. I don't know what they're going to do yet, but we will see. Support your local businesses, folks. In the hobby, they're really important. So, moving on. Hobby Nightmares time. D says, "Hi North, I have a different story to share with you about how the hobby is currently saving my life." Okay. Alright. Quick background. I was introduced to 40k by some friends in the early 2000s, and I eagerly started a Space Wolf army. Don't hate, I like the colour, and my gaming archetype is melee. Dude, if you like Space Wolves, I'm not going to hate on you. It's fine. The army and some of the players are different people. It is what it is. I didn't get to play much due to these friends living a few hours away, but I loved painting my models and trying to make them unique, which was a challenge when every Marine was doing a weird bow-legged cowboy squat. Well, you would go and collect Space Wolves, my friend, That's what they do. The Hobby Nightmare portion of my story starts in 2010. This was when I met my future wife. That's not good. Your Hobby Nightmare starts and you meet your missus? That's not good. Don't show her this, whatever you do. Sorry, sometimes I have a little drink of tea, so I turn my mic off. I love... let me get on. Then I met my future wife, and quickly she became the centre of my world. Although she encouraged me at the beginning of our relationship to continue in the hobby, I had decided to focus more on her. Mistake. Her very large family, and the new friends that were coming into my life from being with her, as these things were all things I felt I was lacking at the time. Alright, before I move on, that is a huge mistake. A huge mistake. Alright, you can't make your life about somebody else. Your life is your life. If you like doing Warhammer, she needs to get good with that and be involved in your life. It's 50-50, man. It's 50-50. You cannot live for somebody else. It becomes toxic, it becomes abusive, and I've yet to see it work out. It always explodes, and it always explodes in the guy's face. Always. Alright? Cool. I was also playing World of Warcraft with some of the 40k friends that I had, so I felt somewhat connected to them even over a distance. Life was going amazingly well for several years, peaking in the summer of 2019 when my personal and professional lives seemed to be unstoppable. That ended abruptly in the fall of 2019, when the company I was working for decided to close the photo studio I was working for. My options were to transition to a new position within the company, or quit and try something else. Since my degree is in photography, and it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do, I decided to try the new position. Jump to the beginning of 2020, when the pandemic shut down the company for a to-be-determined amount of time, and 99% of the company was laid off. This is when I decided to go ahead and look for a new job. This leads me into the non-hobby related part of the nightmare. Leaving that job was a hard pill to swallow. I had been there for 20 years, not to brag, and I was really good at it. I had won dozens of awards by the time I left, and this is when I started to struggle with anxiety. The pressures to have a job that provided health insurance was solely on me, as my wife was self-employed. I don't fault her for being self-employed. I had encouraged her to make that move professionally and follow her dreams. She also made quite a bit more than me, so just getting a job with health insurance didn't seem like too big of an ask. However, my love was for photography, and I struggled to find work in that field during the pandemic. I did eventually find a job doing photography in another field, but the emotional cracks had just begun to form. Yeah, man, as soon as you let it in, it's kind of like the One Ring. Do you know what I mean? If you're gonna do a nerdy example, it's kind of like the One Ring. As soon as you let it in, you let that pain in, that's when we start cracking apart. That's when things start going really, really badly. As soon as it's in. After the feelings of being trapped and helpless built for about a year, I finally broke and had an anxiety attack. After dealing with the fallout of that and starting medication, depression started to become an issue. After getting on medication for that, I started to turn to alcohol as my solution for every emotional problem I faced. As you can imagine, this did not help. As the cycle of medication misuse and alcohol abuse progressed, I was drinking alcoholically every day. And I eventually got to the point where I hated myself and no longer saw any value in living. I had withdrawn from myself and from my friends and my family, and I didn't share my fears with my wife because I felt weak for doing so. Thankfully, I couldn't go through with taking my own life, mostly because my wife's father had also done that and I couldn't put her through it again. But I also knew I couldn't continue to live the way I was. I had to change. You know what? That is a real breaking point that a lot of guys who are thinking of self-deletion, a lot of guys face that. They don't not do it because they're afraid to do it. They don't do it because they can't leave people behind with that pain and that. The one thing you do when you make that decision is everybody around you will think of you for the rest of their lives as and they'll think, could I have done better? Could I have saved them? You know, that's what you're doing. If you make that decision, you know, everybody around you who's close to you will be thinking that for the rest of their lives. And most people, guys I know, who made the decision not to do that eventually, that's the reason they give. And they say, look, I was in a rock and a hard place. If I make the decision not to self-delete, because I can't put my family through that, the only other option I have is to improve my life. That's it. That's the only other option. I can't stay here, because that, you know what I mean? Because then I'll end up doing something silly and creating the effect I don't want for my loved ones. Because I'm the guy here, right? I don't want to leave people behind. So you break. You have that mental break. You suffer that break. And you go snap. And you go, right, now it's time to rebuild. Because you've got no other choice. You've literally got no other choice. There's nowhere else to go. Right? You are at the abyss, and even the abyss has said, no thank you. You can go back. So now you're like, what do I do? Well, you just turn around and you go back the way you came and you rebuild your life. That's what you do. I went into detox and got clean from alcohol. However, I didn't make any other changes in my life, and before long, I had a relapse. This irreparably damaged my relationship with my wife and kept me drinking for several months until finally I went into rehab proper. It was a while I was in the rehab facility that my wife started to talk about separating, of course, yeah. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, man, I'm not going to call your wife weak for not wanting to go through that, but that's some weak ass shit right there. If you get married, I'm sorry, if you get married, if the other person is having serious problems, right, and they've not abused you in any way, it's your responsibility to be their rock and help them get them through this. That's what you signed on for. That's what marriage is. Okay? Till death do us part, my dear, okay? If the other person is going through some shit, it's your responsibility as the spouse to help them get through it. You're a team. You're a team. You're a symbiotic organism. You are a team. Alright? I could tell you from the start of this fucking story that she would, at the first sign of this, it was going to be, I think we need to separate. Right? Now, I don't know if you're still with her. I've not read the rest of this yet. I don't know whether you're still with her or not, but I'm telling you now. Like, if you make your life about somebody else, you give all of the power to them, and they start to lose respect for you. Take your own power. You don't let anybody else define your happiness and your self-worth. Absolutely not. Especially not your wife. Because most of the time, she's fucking wrong. Anyway. Now, I know my story was supposed to be about the hobby and how it is saving my life. So let me get to that part of the story. I'm happy to say that I'm approaching 1 year sober. And while my marriage didn't survive this change, of course, I've been able to immerse myself back into my old hobby and make some new friends who also share an interest in painting. The game store I go to even has a hobby seminar every week where I can actually hang out with other painters to learn new techniques and share tips. I have not actually started playing 40k again, but for the time being, I'm happy to paint my Black Templars and listen to YouTube content like your channel. Painting has given me a relaxing outlet in times when I just need to clear my head, a new skill to learn and work on, and a sense of pride in the improvement I'm making. In addition to working on a sobriety program, I'm also talking to a therapist and learning how to let go of the old negative emotions and people who don't support my new path. Mate, I'm willing to bet that your therapist told you to let the wife go. There's a lot of things you're not telling me in this story about that relationship. I'm telling you now, you're sitting there now, nodding away, aren't you? I can almost see you sitting there painting your models, going, yeah. You've left out a lot of stuff from the story because you love your ex-wife, and you want her to be okay, right? I can tell just from this, but I bet you that therapist has gone, yeah, man, let her go. Let her go. Because if you're looking at toxicity and the pressure you're putting yourself under, I bet you 90% of that pressure came from her. 90%. I'm almost totally sure. Right? Because when you get a good one who you think is out of your league, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You said it right at the start. Right? You had a woman and you made her your entire world. Why do men do that? Because you think she's out of your league and you're really lucky to have her. Wrong. Wrong way to do it. Wrong way to do it. You are the priority in your own life. Your happiness is the most important thing in your life. If that isn't the case, if that's not happening, get out of that situation, because the minute you hand over the keys to your life, the control to your life, and they get to steer your life, that's when the stress starts. Because as soon as any bump in the road happens, right, the pressure will start, the horrible comments will start, the stress will start. It will just ramp up. That person will expect you to be on your A game constantly. Why? Because you've given them the keys to your life, dude. That's what you've done. And you've said, I need to be at my very best to be worthy of you. And that's not right. That's not right at all. Okay? She needs to see you wallowing out of bed hungover and still love you. That's what she needs to do. Anytime you give your partner power like this over you and your happiness, it only takes a slight bump in the road for them to lose, number one, all respect for you, and number two, they want an out. They want a get out clause. As soon as the going gets tough, they're gone. They're gone. Right? Exactly what happened to you. Let's be honest, you having an alcohol problem and going and get it sorted out as you have done, that's a bump in the road. That is, it's a bump in the road. Especially if you've got over it. If you've got over that, and you're in therapy and you're making positive changes in your life, it shows you that was a bump in the road, and she made the wrong decision by fucking off. Why did she fuck off? Because you made your entire life about her, and the minute it wasn't, the minute you weren't on your A game, she had second thoughts. How do I know this? Because it happened to me. Yeah, it's happened to me. On top of that, going back to the story, on top of that, I'm also getting back into lifting weights. Good man. I have an amazing support network, and I'm incredibly grateful to my employer who has stood by me whilst I get the help I needed. Dude, it seems to me the problem you got rid of. I know nothing about your missus, your ex, but it seems to me if everything else in your life is provided a really good support network, and the one change you've made is getting rid of her, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't know anything about your situation beyond what you've told me. But I'm just getting a whiff of, like, you've cut out the cancer here, and you've done well for it. Thank you for everything you do for the community, especially your encouragement of people getting help with their mental health. Cheers, man. I attached a couple of photos of my army if you care to share them. Alright, okay. Let me just see if I've got your email here. I might not, because I'm currently on work server. One sec. No, I can't see it. No, can't see it. I will come back to it though. Hopefully, I don't think you attached any photos in there actually. Anyway, doesn't matter. Ola says, "Hey North, you can call me Ola. It's a common name, so I'm not scared. All right, okay. I heard you're running short on I heard you're running short on some hobby nightmares. So after a bit of coaxing from the Discord, I decided to chip in. They are very good at coaxing. I will say that. I'm at a crossroads when it comes to tabletop RPGs. I've understood that every time I try to play, it is either really bad from the start or it goes to shit. My current D&D game is falling apart through no fault of my own, and once it goes, I'm going. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. My stubborn determination has given me enough hobby nightmares to last you for a few weeks. So, I'm going to give you a few short stories named The Madness Chronicles, alright? The first chronicle. It all began with my first D&D session. I wanted to get into Warhammer D&D for a while. Unlike Warhammer, there's a lesser skill floor, and with zero cost I jumped on a chance to play D&D. Okay. I joined a Strixhaven campaign, D&D Hogwarts basically. On the first session, in the first sentence, I knew it wouldn't last. The DM spoke in the thickest Austrian accent you could imagine. Oh no. Oh no. I come across 40k lore YouTubers like the Grimdark Narrator, and I really want to get into their stuff, but like I can't get past the accent. I'm like, oh no. No. It was so thick you could cut through it with a knife. We had to put more effort into understanding what was being said than what he actually meant. One player didn't even show up to the first session. Once the game concluded, we all left the server. What upsets me is that I put a lot of effort into my player characters. I'm an artist, and so I do character drawings, and I write up detailed backstories, including unique personalities, so for it to be ruined because some Germanic bastard can't speak clear English is beyond pitiful. Fucking hell! Jesus Christ! Both barrels, you know, calm down. It's not his fault he's got an accent, you know? Another thing, by the way, don't do anything to do with your... All you need to do with your character, if you're doing a D&D character, right? Number one, answer 3 questions for me, yeah? Number 1, what do they want? Alright? Okay? Number 2, what's the obstacle stopping them from getting what they want? And number 3, what's an interesting complication you can think of that could happen to give them what they want, but keep them unhappy? Those 3 things. If you can answer those 3 things, you've got the basis of a good character. Really, you don't even need to answer the 3rd one. You need to answer the first 2. What does your character want, and what's stopping them from getting it? It can be as wishful of, what does my character want to be more happy? What's stopping her from getting it? Her abuse when she was a child, and her crippling case of depression and anxiety. Cool. Done. You've now got a normal character who has a bit of depth to them, and then build everything else around those 2 things, right? The 3rd question can go towards your DM, and they can do something with that. Just answer those 2 questions, and then have 3 or 4 bullet points of what your character's personality is like, and what their key characteristics are, and move on. You don't need to do anything else. Move on, because you don't know how long this campaign will last. So spend 10 minutes, no more, 10 minutes thinking of a character and let them grow from there. What you need to be as a D&D player is a gardener, not an architect. Okay? There are two types of fantasy writers in the world. There are gardeners and there are architects. Gardeners plant a seed and watch it grow, and wherever it goes, it goes. It's very organic. Architects, like myself, like to build worlds from the ground up and then start writing their story. In terms of world building, I'm an architect. In terms of storytelling, I'm more of a gardener. Do you know what I mean? Which is why architects aren't very good D&D players, and the architect guys are always the ones who say what you just said there, in that they put all of this work into a character without even knowing how far the campaign's going to go. Don't ever think you're insulting your DM by, you know, not doing much effort into your character straight away, especially if you don't know how long the campaign's going to go on for. What you need to do is have your character down and know what they're doing, and roleplay them well. And once you do that, things get added as you go into the campaign, and then 5 or 6 sessions into your campaign, you want to do character art. You want to do short stories. You want to do all sorts of things because you now have a real passion for seeing that character in different forms and watching them grow. But doing it straight away is a recipe for disaster and frustration, alright? Also, don't call Austrian people Germanic, they'll get upset. I can confirm that the PC will most likely never see the light of day, and that is the through line with all of this. People that waste your time, despite you giving it your all, resulting in wasted potential, okay? The second chronicle, the DM that doesn't understand D20s. After the first campaign fell faster on its face than Liz Truss... What? After the first campaign fell faster in its face than Liz Truss's mini-budget, if you know, you know, I was invited into a Curse of Strahd campaign by one of the players. I made a whole new character and put my blood, sweat and tears into making him. Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here, dude. First session comes around, it goes off to a nice start. I'm playing my second character, so instead of playing a show-stopping bard like the last time, I went for a quiet and capable fighter. I'll let everybody enjoy the spotlight, but make my 5 minutes quite valuable when I get them. We get past the scene where there's ghosts that make you see anyone you love die horribly. For example, the poor barbarian saw his mother hang herself, failed the wisdom check, and actually believed she died. Oh my god. So after we go through this, my guy is quite aggravated that torture ghosts weren't part of the job description. So he goes to confront the hunter guy alongside the party. The hunter doesn't take us seriously, so I try to intimidate him. I didn't want to threaten his life, just to make him think twice about fucking with me. I rolled a natural 20. The DM then narrates the hunter using power word kill to eradicate my PC that I put 5 hours into making. Everybody I discussed it with understood this is bullshit, considering my intent was not to make him think I'd straight up kill him, and that the natural 20 means I get the best possible outcome, i.e. I do exactly what I want to do. In addition, according to someone that played this module, they told me that the hunter wouldn't even be able to do this normally. Wow, okay. It gets worse. The bastard then teases a resurrection whilst I'm in near tears for all my hard work getting shat on for no reason. I look in distraught hope. He asks the group if they want me to come back, and they say no. He then creates a fireball and burns my corpse. Fucking despicable. But it gets worse. One of the other players asks if they can loot my corpse for a silver weapon. Each player was granted 1 to aid in combat. When I asked if I could get it reversed because I had no idea this would be the consequence of what was happening, the DM threw up their hands and told me that they were a legendary character, as if a person who needed help making their character sheet on their second session fully understood what legendary lord meant. I thought it was like a title in a video game. It didn't mean anything except to clarify what enemies were. I was wrong. He then literally said, "Fuck around and find out, I guess. What can I do?" The DM then told me that I have to play a cleric next session, and was like, "See you next Sunday." A genuine piss take. It was so bad I couldn't even sleep that night. It was midnight when I understood the only way for me to sleep that night was to have some self-respect and leave the campaign. I was on the verge of quitting D&D and TTRPGs altogether, but I had a game next Saturday. I am not certain if I would be better off if I had quit, then considering how much time I'd save, and I could have used it on something more productive instead. My ultimate question is it even worth it anymore? Okay. I can tell by the way you typed this that you're very, very angry with what's been going on, and I can understand what you mean. We've all had nightmares when it comes to tabletop RPGs. We've all been there, right? Me more than most. I've had some terrible times with tabletop RPGs, and I mean there was once. I'll do a few examples. So there was once I built my own world from scratch in university. And I essentially started playing D&D whilst in uni in that setting that I'd made. Mainly because a few friends of mine read it and thought, this is the best thing ever. Like, we get to play in this own world that this guy's made, and we get to play D&D, and it's an open world, we can do whatever we want, awesome. And we created this little threesome of a group. All three really nerdy gents. We got into my dorm room. I had my own room with an ensuite because I was a mature student, which is quite nice. So they all came into my dorm room. We got snacks. We got like everything. You know. We sat down every Sunday and we played D&D for a good 3 or 4 hours, and it was a really, really cool time. I always remember that first session that we did, where literally the guys were just fighting to get their wages. They were trying to get into the city, but there was a siege on the way for the city in a month or two, so everyone was being like told to sit outside in slums essentially, and the dwarf that had hired them had told them to go fuck themselves when they went for their money. And so our party decided, well, screw this guy, let's just mug him and take our wages that way. And they did. Not one penny more. They went and they killed his guards, took the wages, and that was the entire first session. That was it. Right? I just wanted to see what they would do to get a feeling for what the characters were doing. And they loved it so much, we went for a pint afterwards and they were just like clapping me on the back saying that was amazing, we can't wait for next week. And that was the biggest shot on the arm that I needed. And eventually this D&D campaign started to grow, and word started to spread that these three were having a really good time. You know, one other person would join, and then another person, and by the end we had like a party of 8. But they were all 8 really close friends, so it was like a really good get-together every single time. And eventually the party did split, because when that siege did arrive, the party had grown in power to be like the standout, you know, medieval mercenaries of the region. Half of them were evil, half of them were good. And so the evil guys went with the evil side, and the good guys went with the good side. And we had this Game of Thrones style episodic thing every single week, and it was amazing. Really, really cool. Anyway, cue a few years later, and we've all grown apart a little bit. The second campaign that I did, people kind of took it for granted. The same group basically just took it for granted and started not turning up to sessions and stuff, which really hurt me considering I put a ton of effort into things. You know, because as the DM, I don't have the luxury of just winging it like players do. I've got to literally build things from scratch and be an architect, right? That's what architect is. That's what it's like if you're into D&D. It's very high stakes. If things don't work out, you've wasted your time as an architect, and that's where I am when I'm building worlds and building stories like that. So I had a bit of bad blood. I didn't like it that much. The people weren't turning up, and eventually I did a sci-fi version of the same setting. It went really well, and then I handed it off to one of the guys and said, listen, I'd like to play. Would you like to DM? You've always said you wanted to DM. Would you like to DM this new thing, this new sci-fi setting that I've got that I want to play in? And he said yes, only to then try and kill me every single week we did a session. Right? It was him, his favourite player at the table, who was another one of our friends, and everyone else could pretty much get fucked, especially me. There was one time when he was giving away really overpowered weapons to everybody. Okay, so you had people who could literally bend and melt reality with their things, or they had full resurrection module if they were a mech, so they could just come back from the dead as many times as they want, right? Do you know what I got? A folding away rifle. Yeah, a rifle that folds away and I can put it in my backpack. I.e., something that already fucking exists in the 21st century. That's what I got, right? And every single stray bullet that went flying would somehow hit me through walls and all sorts. It was ridiculous. And in the end, I didn't even quit. I was with a girl at the time who was in that group with us, right? We split up, and that was my excuse to be like, listen. I said to her, listen, do you mind if I don't come back to the campaign? You guys can carry on. And she said, look, you built the campaign. You built the campaign world. I don't want to be in there playing with your friends if you're not there. It's not my place. So we both left, and the whole thing just fell apart like a deck of cards. So I've been there. I know how frustrating it is to have your time wasted and to have things ripped away from you from a hobby point of view. It's not nice. It is not nice at all. It sucks. And to this day, you know, those people, they play D&D together, and they don't include me. They don't include me. I'm just off on the peripheral, you know. Yeah, we would talk a little while until I worked for Games Workshop, funny enough, and then a lot of them just stopped talking to me. So it just is what it is. But again, you need to take control of your own tabletop hobby experience. It's much like 40k. You need to decide who you're playing with. So what I would do, don't put too much effort into character creation, for God's sake. Alright? For number one. And number two, please, make sure that when you do a tabletop art campaign, or you do play with somebody, okay, you know the parameters. You know the kind of game they want to play. You know the kind of thing that they want to do. As far as I know, you might be helping us with our own in-house tabletop role-playing setting, and you're doing a tremendous job from the stuff that I've read of writing some really cool stuff. Alright? So what you need to do, and I think you're doing that. I actually think if you're involved in our role-playing thing group, where we're building a world together to use on the channel, you're already doing those good steps. You're already finding other people who value the same things in the game that you do. And when this kicks off, I bet you're going to have a great time playing in the world. Alright? Just make sure you remember what I've told you about building a character. Be a gardener, not an architect if you're a player. Because I can tell by the way you write lore, you're very much an architect like me. Anyway. Edric Scorm says... Edric Scorm. I love this on the screen, by the way. You're seeing me, you know, rapidly going through settings on graphics to try and make Darktide run properly. Even after so many fucking patches. Anyway. Edric Scorm says, hey North. I just got into the channel a few weeks ago, and I have to say that I am hooked. Thank you for providing so much content. Seems like you have really hit on a good content area with people sending stuff in. I thought I'd write in today and go over my own experience in the hobby, and one a few years ago, which really hit home to me and a few of my friends, mainly because it had affected us right in the wallet. Okay, cool. We love our local store. It's a dream of a place that just fits us like an old glove. Do you ever have a place or something you really like that just feels like home? It feels comforting for no reason? Well, this store was like that for me and a few others. Do I have a place that... Do you know what, this time of year? This time of year, definitely. Definitely. I mean, around this time of year, when we go into autumn, it starts getting colder, and you go for walks and parks and stuff during the day, and the sun starts to go down, and it's getting a bit colder. This is my kind of year. I feel cozy. I feel ready to go. You know, this is my shtick. I really love it this time of year. One thing they did really well in the store was keep the place cool in the summer and not warm in the winter. In the winter months, you were not cold, but that's as far as the heating went. This was to keep the energy of the place up and not lethargic. Our manager Clive used to run a massive IT business before selling it and getting his own hobby store as a retirement project. You can tell the guy knows that when things are cool, even human beings, they generally run better. I agree. It's one of the main reasons why, as you get older, most people like the winter, because you can make yourself warmer. You can't make there's only so much you can escape the heat. You know, you can only get so much cold. You only get so much cooler. Whereas with heat, you can just generally create it if you want to in your own house, and you'll be fine. It's the same thing with me, by the way. If I'm ever in a high energy situation where I get like quite a lot of audio or overload from people talking around me, if I get that social overload, I need warm light. I don't need like really white light. I don't like that. Yeah, it's too much. Feels like you're under like a headlight or something. And number 2, don't make your place warm. Make it tolerable. Make it fine, right? So I can stand there in a hoodie and not sweat my arse off. The minute you put on the heater in a place like that, dude, don't do it. Not in a hobby store. Just keep it warm enough so we're not shivering and we're not getting cold digits. That's fine. That's it. Just leave it like that, please. Keep us awake. The lighting is kept. The lighting is kept warm though, and not blinding. First, I might have read that already, to be honest with you. That's why I've just thought that. But still, I still agree. The light is kept warm though, and not blinding. You walk in and see walls of games holding wondrous things. Starter box sets fly off the shelves in there, and we have several amazing gaming boards. A real grade A place to go and do your hobby. We all loved and got on really well with the manager Clive. He was a very well-off dude and went above and beyond for us all. He threw most of his savings into the store and built it from nothing to being the premier location in our state for wargaming. 2 floors of bolter-banging fun. He told me he made back his initial investment in the store in his first year of opening, which is kind of crazy. It is. That's really good. That's really good. If you put a load of your savings into a store and then make that all back in a year, that's good shit, man. You're doing well. Just goes to show how a good attitude, a love of the hobby, and a drive to provide a good experience can take you so far in this game. I write this story because a while back you read a story about somebody almost losing their entire business because of a divorce, or something like that, and I actually think this was similar, but I cannot prove it. You see, Clive's wife was bad fucking news. Whenever I met her, we would get 2 sentences into a conversation before she lambasted Clive for something, to me, right in front of him. She would do it in a playful way, but you could tell in her eyes and by Clive's reaction there was some deep resentment feelings there. My God, I hate this. And both sides do this, by the way. Both sides do this. I think women do it more because they can get away with it more. Because any man talking shit about his wife, there will be another white knight nearby who goes, "Hey man, don't talk about her like that." You know, and so women tend to do it more from my experience, but putting your other half down in front of people, if you're both doing it to each other, that's one thing. That's a healthy relationship. If you're both just like ripping the piss out of each other and just having a laugh and you're both laughing and joking and being like, "Oh my God, you're such an arsehole," right? That's a really healthy relationship. That is a relationship based on you two are parents. That's what you are. If you do that to each other, you're parents. You're either parents right now or you're parents in the making. That's a family right there, all right? If it's one person just having a go at the other one all the time, and it's not funny, yeah, I've seen this a few times in relationships where people have. I had it only a few weeks ago. We went away with some friends, and it was like it was a couple there, and the wife was just like putting him down with like snide comments all the time, you know. And he would just laugh it off. Yeah, I am a moron. You know. But I'd just sit there going, "Dude, take your balls out of a purse and tell her to fuck off." Right? As soon as you do that to me with no comeback for like the 3rd time, I'll take you aside. What the fuck's your problem? What's your problem? What's going on? If you don't have a problem, keep your mouth shut. Because this isn't a back and forth. We aren't being playful here. you're being an asshole, and I'm putting up with it. And I won't put up with it anymore. You've had 3 chances, right? Here we go. We're stepping aside, and if you won't step aside, you're getting the riot act read for you in front of everybody. I'd rather rip off the band-aid. I'd rather rip it off. Right? You wanted your little moment, here's your little moment. What's your fucking problem? I wanted to do this aside from everybody else, you don't want to, what's your fucking problem? Tell me. No more passive aggressiveness, tell me what your issue is, and we'll work on it. And if you can't work on it, I'll leave. But I'm not putting up with this. Don't do passive aggression, kings. Don't do it. Fuck them off. Just don't do it. The minute you get snide comments of, you know, oh my god, he did that wrong, or oh yeah, I tell him all the time to do that, but as soon as you get a few of those, say, hey, can I have a quick word with you in private, please? Right? Especially if it's not joking. If she's some of them try and pass it off as joking, but they're not. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're not coming back at them with like a witty retort, just back and forth. If they're just sniping at you all the time, you need to say, listen, can I have a word with you in front of people? Say it in front of people. Can I have a word with you, please? And if she says no, say, okay, all right, we'll do it here. What the fuck's your problem? What the fuck is your problem? With me, specifically. And we'll discuss it right here. Get it out the way, guys. Don't put up with it. Because it always leads to abuse. That's all it leads to. It leads to abuse, anxiety, and your self-worth as a man being destroyed by a woman who just... You know, it's like giving a toddler a nuclear weapon. If you give a woman access to your deepest feelings, that is like giving a toddler a handgun and expecting things to not go wrong, right? Don't do it. Don't do it. Right? The one who you can in the end let your proper guard down with, that's your wife. Or at least it should be. There are guys up there who put rings on the fingers of women who don't deserve it, and I think this is one of them. Anyway, this was Clive's second wife, and I think he had refused to write her son, not by Clive, into Clive's will. But instead, Clive instructed that his kids from another marriage, who loved his new wife's son, from what I have seen, would adjudicate his estate should anything ever happen to him. That's fine. I don't get what's wrong with that. You're the second wife. You're the second wife. You're not the first. Sorry, he's got all the kids. And if they're older than your son, one, the son isn't his, so he's not, you know, in line for anything whatsoever. Whatever he gets is essentially an act of charity. And number two, the other kids are older, so yes, they're going to adjudicate everything, you know? Like in my mum's will, I don't adjudicate anything, it's my sister. Because she knows the ins and outs of stuff like that. And I was fine with that. I said, yeah, you go do that, right? You don't cause shit because of a will, dude. It's not about money. As soon as if your wife ever does that, if your wife ever kicks up a stink about money that's going to happen after you're dead, fucking really big red flag. Big red flag. Absolutely big red flag. You know? As long as you're not trying to screw them. If you're trying to screw them, then fine. But if it's like, you know, if you're just like, hey, I want my eldest kid to adjudicate everything. If she doesn't want that to happen, why? Why? You know why? Because she'd fucking take it for herself if it was all in her shoes, that's why. Anyway, cynical man, moving on. He seemed to think the entire resentment started there and it didn't let go, in all honesty. It was a toxic relationship to even watch from the outside. You'd see Clive pick up the phone and his face go white at work as his wife shouted at him for something on the other end. His wife, of course, did not work, but made sure his house was in order, or so he said. Later, he showed me pictures used in the divorce settlement that she'd annihilated the place with filth. Apparently, a month or two after moving in with him after their marriage, the mask slipped off from her face and only ever went back on fully when in the presence of other people. And so, no, he didn't even sign a prenup. Oh no. I know. When the divorce finally hit home, she came at him for everything. But Clive, being Clive, he spent a good chunk of money lawyering up well before this, and actually managed to get away with paying her a decent amount of child support, and that was it. Sure, There were other smaller things here and there that he had to let go, things he could live without, but the judge in this case saw the abuse, apparently, and ruled in his favour, although she got to keep the place. So basically he had to get another house on his own. Yeah, so even when the man wins, you still have to pay child support for a kid that's not fucking yours, and you need to leave your own house. That's considered a win. And it's only a win because Clive in this Hobby Nightmare has a lot of money lying around. So it's a win for him. He can go and get another place. What about the average Joe? You're fucked. Absolutely fucked. Still, Clive paid child support for a kid that was not his, but I digress. His ex was not happy. Dude. She would call in with threats all the time to Clive personally, and in the end, he had a restraining order placed on her. So, why do I say all of this in a Hobby Nightmare? Well, it's quite simple. All of our armies, and most of Clive's stock of models, was stolen overnight several weeks after the divorce. To this day, Clive has not revealed what happened, only to say that, and I quote, "The models were never found, of which he showed us proof and a police report, but the person responsible was caught and the appropriate measures were taken." One weird thing, the threats from his ex stopped after the theft. Just saying. Ah, okay. That bitch is in prison. I'm telling you now. Either she's in prison or she was heavily suspected and backed the hell off. Anyway. So here we are. No armies. There was no massive climactic rush to the store to see that everything was gone. I just turned up on a Monday afternoon in my work lunch break to find the place closed, empty, with Clive walking around ashen-faced and close to tears. The store was trashed and mostly empty. Clive came into our WhatsApp group for our hobby group and asked us all to meet at the store to discuss the next steps and to write a full list of what was in our army cases when they were stolen. It would have been easy to take advantage of the situation by saying that things were in the cases that weren't, but we all agreed not to do that because whilst most of us were good guys, there were some people in our group who we didn't really know that well. During our meeting at the store, we brought coffee and cakes for Clive. A small gesture, I guess. Nothing in it really, but these are the things you have to do, right? Clive took the lists and told us all that before a single thing was replaced on his shelves, he would make this right. And so he did. Boy, did he. What turned up to my house a week later was 2,000 points of Black Templars, the exact models that I had lost, along with paints, clippers, files, brushes, the 40k rulebook and 2 codexes, and a bunch of other bits and bobs that go really well with the Black Templars. Upgrade sprues and 1 or 2 tanks. I had only actually placed the army on the list and nothing else. This happened for each of the 8 guys who lost everything. They got all of their stuff back and more besides. It turned out that the insurance had paid out for Clive, and he used several $100 of his own money per person to get the extra stuff as a thank you for being such loyal customers for him over the years. It's safe to say that after this, we were about ready to die for this man. My son now works his first job in Clive's store for a decent wage, might I add, for a retail job. And if he told me he wanted to work there for the rest of his days and to take it over later on in life, I'd be a very proud dad. It's that kind of a store. It took Clive a month longer to open than he initially thought after the theft, but he thought it was important to look after us first and the business second. Needless to say, we are now his cheerleaders. We push the store whenever we can, and if you give permission, I'd like to on here, if that's alright. Let me know in the video or email, and I'll send you through the details. Please do. Please do. Yeah, I'd love to do that. I love good businesses. Clive is doing very well now, and his store is booming again. So it's a happy ending this time. Thanks for all you do, North. Edric Scorm. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for a nice, good ending to a Hobby Nightmare. That was lovely. Thank you very, very much. It sucks when shit like this happens. I'm not going to cast aspersions on who did the stealing and when. I'm just happy you all got your stuff back and things now going well. That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. And again, it just goes to show, if you pay it forwards, guys, if you make sure that you invest in your people at your store, if you make sure that those people, look at me, I've died on the screen again, I'm so bad at this game. If you make sure that the people in your store are looked after, most of them will look after you. Most of them are dads, most of them are nurturers, most of them will look after you. Alright? Alright. I'll see you tomorrow for another 40k rant. It's going to be about how and I mean this so much when I say it, how the book, The End and the Death Part 1, the end of the Horus Heresy essentially, is the biggest literary disappointment of the past 10 years. Yes, I am that salty about it. Love you all long time. See you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye now.